My name is Nora Beckett, and I want to tell you something before this story begins. I am not a careless woman. I have never been careless. Not with money, not with people, not with the years I give to anything. My mother raised me in a 2-bedroom apartment in Akron, Ohio, working double shifts at a nursing facility so I could finish college without debt. I watched her sacrifice everything for security. And I promised myself I would build the kind of life that made that sacrifice worth something. By the time I was 34, I had done exactly that. A financial consulting practice with 11 clients, a condo I owned outright, a retirement account my accountant called unusually disciplined for your age, and a reputation for reading people quickly, accurately, and without sentimentality. I say all of this so you understand what it meant when I trusted Daniel Osei. Because I do not trust easily. Oh, I never have. And he had 4 years of it. Every piece. The kind of trust you build slowly, the way you build a house, one deliberate thing at a time. And he had it all. Until the morning after our wedding, when a federal agent stepped directly into my path at gate 14 and quietly asked me if the man I had married the day before was, in fact, my husband. And everything I thought I had built began coming apart at the seams. I need to back up, because the story doesn't start at the airport. It starts 3 weeks before the wedding, in a moment so small I almost didn't register it. We were at Daniel's mother's house for Sunday dinner. Patricia Osei, a composed, immaculately dressed woman who had never once in 4 years said anything overtly unkind to me. Everything with Patricia was subtle, a raised eyebrow, a particular kind of silence after I spoke, a compliment shaped just slightly like a concern. That Sunday, she said something while we were washing dishes together. Daniel had stepped outside to take a call. It was just the two of us. She handed me a dish to dry and said, without looking at me, "Nora, you know I love you. But marriage is a legal arrangement before it is an emotional one. Have you two spoken about how you're going to handle your assets going forward?" I told her we had a prenup drafted. She smiled. "Of course you do. You're a practical woman. That's actually what worries me a little." I looked at her. "Practical people build walls," she said, "and Daniel has been hurt before." Then Daniel walked back in, and she changed her expression like turning a page, warm and easy and perfectly normal. I mentioned it to Daniel that night. He laughed softly, kissed my temple, and said his mother just worried, that she meant well, that she had watched his last relationship end badly and was still protective. I let it go. That was my first mistake. We got married on a Saturday in September. Small ceremony. 40 people. A venue outside Columbus with old wood floors and string lights and a jazz trio that played too quietly for anyone to complain about them. Daniel was steady through all of it. Steady the way he always was. Not flashy, not performing, just present. He held my hand during the vows and looked at me the way I had always wanted to be looked at, like I was something permanent. Patricia sat in the front row and cried, genuine tears as far as I could see. Afterward, she hugged me for a long time and said, "Welcome to the family." I believed her. I had no reason not to. The morning after, we drove to the airport at 6 a.m. Our flight to Aruba boarded at 9. We checked in together, moved through the terminal together, and when we reached security, Daniel moved through first. Fast, easy, the way he always did everything. He had TSA pre-check. I was always slightly behind him in these things. The small logistical gaps of two people who hadn't quite merged their routines yet. I was pulling my laptop out of my bag when someone stepped into my path. Not in uniform, badge on a lanyard, dark jacket, the kind of stillness that tells you immediately this person is not in a hurry and cannot be redirected. "Ms. Beckett," still my old name, which meant they had been watching for me before the marriage was processed. "Yes? My name is Agent Carla Webb. I need a few minutes of your time privately." I looked past her toward Daniel. He was at the end of the security line, not yet through, phone already out. "Is something wrong? Please come with me." The room had no windows. I have since learned that the rooms they bring you to in airports almost never have windows. I don't know if that's intentional or just architecture, but sitting in that chair with the door closed and the outside world suddenly inaccessible, you feel it. The specific weight of being contained. There were two of them, Webb and a man who introduced himself as Agent Price. They let me sit for a moment before either of them spoke. Not cruelly, more like they understood that what they were about to say required a person to be settled first. Webb spoke. How much do you know about Daniel Osei's financial history before you met him? I told her what I knew. Structured finance background, worked independently for several years before we met. Comfortable but not lavish. No red flags that I, a financial professional, had ever identified. She nodded slowly. Did he ever mention a woman named Simone Archer? I shook my head. Yvette Calder? Nothing. Has he spoken to you at any point about eventually consolidating your assets together? Your investment portfolio specifically? I felt something shift in my chest. He mentioned it once, I said carefully. He called it long-term planning. He said his mother had suggested we speak to an estate attorney after the honeymoon. Webb and Price looked at each other. That look, the one trained people give each other when an answer confirms something they've already spent months documenting. Mrs. Osei, Webb said, and hearing that name, less than 18 hours old, made me feel something I cannot fully describe. A fracturing. She opened a folder. We've been building a case around your husband for 11 months. She took her time explaining it. I think she did that on purpose. Gave me the information in pieces rather than all at once because she had done this before, and she understood that a person can only absorb so much before they stop hearing anything. Daniel Osei had a pattern, not a criminal record, nothing that would have surfaced in a background check. The pattern lived in the space between legal and illegal, in civil territory, in financial gray areas that were difficult to prosecute unless you caught the mechanism in motion. He identified women with substantial independent assets. He was patient. He took years, not months, to build trust, which was unusual. Webb said that specifically. Most people running this kind of scheme move faster. He's exceptional at the slow build. He would wait until after marriage, then introduce the idea of consolidation gradually. Estate planning, tax efficiency, long-term security, words that sound responsible, even loving. And then, once the transfer was initiated, the money moved in ways that were difficult to untangle quickly. Simone Archer had lost a significant portion of her late mother's estate. Yvette Calder had spent 14 months in litigation trying to recover funds she had voluntarily transferred to a joint account 7 weeks after her wedding. Both women had described the same courtship, the same patience, the same steadiness, the same man. I sat very still. And Patricia, I said. Webb paused. His mother coordinates it, she said. She identifies candidates. She helps manage the timeline. She's done this before, with other men. Daniel is not her first. Something cold moved through me. Patricia, at the sink. Marriage is a legal arrangement before it's an emotional one. Patricia, hugging me at the altar. Patricia, crying real tears in the front row. She knew from the beginning, I said. She planned from the beginning, Webb replied. They told me what they needed. They were close. 11 months of documentation, 2 prior victims willing to testify, but everything that had happened to Simone and Yvette had happened in other states, different jurisdictions, and building a federal case required evidence that crossed state lines or documented intent within federal purview. What they needed was the initiation. One documented attempt to begin the financial transfer, to recorded under my cooperation. We need you to fly to Aruba, Webb said. We need you to behave as though this conversation never happened. When he introduces the paperwork, we need you to stall without refusing. Give us time to document it properly. And if I say no, we release you. You go home if you want, or you go to Aruba. Either way, the case continues without you. It'll take longer. Price spoke for the first time. His voice was quieter than I expected. There will be another woman after you. Maybe already is. He doesn't stop. I looked at the folder on the table. Simone Archer, Yvette Calder. Two women who had trusted the same steadiness I had trusted. I thought about how long it had taken me to trust anyone, how deliberate I had been, how much I had believed that my own ability to read people was a reliable thing. He had dismantled that without my knowledge over 4 years. I thought about what Yvette's 14 months of litigation must have felt like. "Okay," I said. One word. And then I went back out to my husband. He was exactly where I expected him. Standing near the gate, coffee in hand, the particular posture of a man who was not worried, not performing calm, actually calm, because he had no reason to believe anything had gone wrong. When he saw me, his expression arranged itself into concern so naturally I could have believed it. "They held you that whole time for screening?" "Passport issue," I said. "Old travel flag from a work trip to London. They cleared it." "That's insane." He touched my face. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," I said. "I just want to get on the plane." He kissed my forehead. I let him. I watched him sleep on the flight, 3.5 hours over water. I have never examined anything as carefully as I examined his face during those hours. Every exhale, the particular angle of his jaw, the way his hand rested open on the armrest, relaxed, unguarded, the hand of a man with absolutely nothing pressing on his conscience. I had spent 4 years learning that face, and now I was learning it again, differently. Webb had given me a secondary phone before I left the room, tucked into the inner pocket of my carry-on. One contact, no name, just a number and instructions. Document everything he initiates regarding financial transfers. Text immediately. Do not attempt to refuse directly. A delay. I was good at reading situations. I had simply never had to apply that skill to my own marriage before. The resort was beautiful in the way places are beautiful when you cannot feel them. The ocean did its job. The suite was warm and light. Daniel ordered room service the first night, and we ate on the balcony, and he talked about how good it felt to finally be here, finally be done with all the planning, finally just be present. I watched him talk, and I thought about Simone Archer and what she had felt sitting across from this same man in some other room in some other season, believing the same things I had believed. I slept that night with the secondary phone under my pillow. He brought it up on the second morning. I had wondered when. Part of me thought he might wait longer, build a few more days of warmth first, but he was on a timeline I hadn't known about. We were having breakfast on the balcony. Coffee, fruit, say the kind of morning that should have been uncomplicated. He reached beside his chair for a small leather folder I hadn't noticed him carry in. He set it on the table between us with the particular casualness of someone who has practiced making an important thing appear unimportant. "I was going to handle this before the wedding," he said. "Time got away from me." He opened it. Estate consolidation documents. A transfer form moving primary executive control of my investment portfolio to a joint account with his signature already on it, waiting for mine. "It's just long-term planning," he said. "My mom's estate attorney put it together. It protects both of us." He slid it across to me with a pen already extended. He had been carrying the pen. I looked at the document. I took the pen. I held it above the signature line. "Can I read it first?" I said. My old attorney always made me read everything twice before signing. I know, it's a habit." I smiled apologetically. Something moved across his face, too fast to name, a recalibration. "Of course," he said. Easy voice. No rush. That night while he showered, I photographed every page, sent them to the number Webb had given me. My hands were very steady. I had not expected them to be steady. 14 minutes later, the response came. 3 words. "We're moving tomorrow." I set the phone back under my pillow. I heard the shower turn off. He came out smiling, relaxed, certain of everything he believed tomorrow would bring. "Come to bed," he said. I did. I lay there in the dark, listening to his breathing slow and deepen, thinking about how proximity to a person tells you nothing about what they actually are, how you can be this close, share this space, and still be entirely invisible to each other. He thought he knew exactly who I was. A careful woman who would eventually sign because careful women understand practicality. He had miscalculated one thing. Careful women also know how to wait. They came on the third morning. We were at breakfast on the terrace. He had ordered eggs. I had coffee I wasn't drinking. I saw them before he did. Webb and Price moving through the terrace with the unhurried certainty of people who have waited 11 months for a 30-second moment. Resort security trailing at a respectful distance. The body language of conclusion. Daniel saw them when they were 15 feet away. I watched it happen. The calculation behind his eyes. 4 seconds. Exits, explanations, angles, everything happening at once in the space of a breath. He was fast. I understood, watching it, exactly how he had sustained this for as long as he had. Then he looked at me. Not with anger. With recognition. The precise expression of someone who has just understood that the person across from them was never quite what they appeared to be either. I held his gaze. I did not look away. Webb placed her hand on his shoulder. "Mr. Osei?" He stood slowly, straightened his shirt with both hands. That small vanity of his, always composed, even now. He didn't speak to me. I didn't need him to. Price called an hour later while I sat alone on the balcony. "Patricia has been detained at her residence," he said. "Conspiracy to commit financial fraud, coordinated exploitation across multiple states, several other charges I wrote down because my hand needed something to do." "Is there anything else?" I asked. He paused. "Yvette Calder asked us to pass something along. She said to tell you that you gave her something back she thought she'd lost." I didn't respond right away. I watched a pelican hit the water below, clean and direct and without hesitation, rising back up with exactly what it came for. "Tell her I'll reach out," I said. I stayed the full week. I had already paid for it, and the ocean was genuinely beautiful, and the mornings were quiet in a way that felt like something being returned to me. I slept without the secondary phone. I ate when I was hungry. I sat with the fact that I had given 4 years to something that was, the entire time, a structure built to extract something from me, and I let myself feel that without trying to move past it too quickly. Because grief that is rushed becomes something harder later. I had built my life carefully, and it had still happened, and I was still here. On the last morning, I received a message from a number I didn't recognize. No name. 2 sentences. "I heard what you did. I'm Simone Archer. Thank you." I sat with that for a long time. Then I packed my bag, tipped the housekeeping staff generously, walked to the airport alone, and flew home to start rebuilding the only thing that had ever actually been mine. My name is Nora Beckett. I am not a careless woman, and that is still true.